Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up.
Hello, Ben.
Hello, Jeremy. Happy Friday.
Yes, happy Friday to you, and welcome everybody to this week's edition of Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up, where we look at everything to do with the London market, technology, change, innovation. This week we are going to have a look at the, underwriting strategies more generally, but the lead follow market, and perhaps have a chat about that. We're going to look at Lloyd's growth plans and FCA discussion paper on regulation, as well as talent. So there we are. So let's have a look at the news. So we both saw this kind of little bit of news. I think it came through on Slipcase, but it's an interview at Monte Carlo, I think it was, with Richard Brindle, CEO of Fidelis Partnership. And he is voicing sharp criticism of Lloyd's follow market model, expressing concerns over the reliance on capacity without the benefit of proper underwriting judgment. And he goes on to say that they really should take the lead more, to be more innovative, and the leadership on wordings and things like that. It was quite interesting what he talks about, the importance of underwriting judgment, the role of technology, important in kind of, lower expenses, but can it replace expert decision making? Yet, I would put at the end of that, sort of sentence, but I wouldn't I? And it's interesting because I've spoken to quite a few people about kind of this topic. In fact, we're doing quite a bit of work in the area. Because we've got TinTech MGA coming up next year. And it's quite interesting about the way that technology is driving change in this space. Because if you think about the follow market, it's almost ripe for technology just to kind of take over there. But then you've also got to have the lead in which to follow, and you need to have that expertise. And how does that relationship work? And so there's a lot of questions around how it impacts kind of traditional underwriting models, traditional skills and capabilities. If you're now, looking at a kind of a portfolio, or you're looking at algorithms, or you're looking at data in order to create or set up these new platforms, it's really fascinating. So I like this interview. I think it's really good. Starts a really good discussion off, as they say in The Simpsons. I think it's Mr. Burns said to Smithers, "I like the cut of this boy's jib." I don't know the guy. I don't know if he... But I mean, he says it how it is.
Yes, he does. I mean, Brindle does. He's a trader. He's built that Fidelis business up very, very, very quickly. I imagine he has taken some quite big risks and punts on that business that are, I guess, well informed, as he says, and he's of that speedy, decisive kind of underwriting, very hands-on. The Titanic struggle, I suppose, is over is kind of efficiency of deployment of risk capital, and the seductive thing, of course, is to have follow syndicates that just literally are underwriterless, that just add the money to the slip using an algorithm within certain parameters. But I think I think there's much more to it than that. And I think that Brindle throws in words like innovation and, thought, I suppose, and intellect in the process of underwriting. And his warning is, if you go down the route of just having computers doing it, you will lose that. And I think we'll come back to this a bit in some of the stuff we're looking at in terms of the Lloyd's market and where it goes. I mean, interestingly, what we will touch on later in the show is that, it's true that Lloyd's market has become much, much more of a follow market than a lead market. or leader market in the last few years, and the question that has significant implications, I think, for its reputation with clients and the buyers of those risks. I think it not just from a relationships perspective, but from a kind of trust and knowledge and all those sort of things. So I think it is a really, really big issue. I mean, Brindle is relating it to the risks themselves, that they could be badly underwritten and things like that. But I think there's more to it than that.
Yeah, I think you're right, because it's just about kind of capacity being pooled and then deployed by the technology. So you're not creating those kind of relationships. So yeah, it is really interesting. I'm going to do more work on this and talk to some more people to get my head around it a bit more. But it's a good discussion point. And he then goes on. This interview goes on, and he says more things around. And I think you were going to talk about this as well. Warns on the Lloyd's ambition for 100 billion top line target. Cautioning against kind of growth at the expense of profitability. And we've been through this cycle before, where unprofitable business was being written just to go for that volume.
It is a bit rich, though, Brindle saying this. I mean, Brindle's grown a business from 0 to about 4 billion in about 4 years, right? I mean, similar to Convex's growth. So, I get his. I'm sure I get his point, but you would have some questions for him, wouldn't you? Well, is everything you've written completely, not a bet? Essentially. I mean, there isn't. To build a business that quickly, you have to take a significant amount of risk. The other thing is, actually, I think the market is already apparently at 100 billion anyway. So this is a bit of a red herring, as they say, because I think John Neal talked about it, $100 billion, but it's 100 billion sterling. I think if you take the company's market and Lloyd's market together. So there's funny kind of arguments going on around whether these are just chief execs positioning themselves to get traction around their stamp and everything else in the market, or whether these are real things. Because saying that, don't, sacrifice profitability for revenue is kind of, God, mother country, really. Everybody knows that. I think, and the reason I'm saying this is there is a really strong argument that you need scale players who are prepared to take those bigger risks around the world. And that's where Lloyd's has been losing share in the reinsurance market, particularly. Yeah,
it's really interesting. I think, and you were going to, add, or you might have already done, around this treaty premiums as well, kind of fits into this, because this isn't straightforward as well, is it?
No, because you've got, so this is an article, Insider in Full, that's appeared on Sipcase. It's a good article, actually, and it's just covering off really some of the numbers behind maybe some of the comments in the market, and trying to put them into context. And I think it does a pretty good job, because what it says is, although reinsurance treaty premiums have gone up in absolute terms in the market, and the market's growing at a slightly faster rate, emphasis on the slightly, than the company's market. If you look at the numbers over a longer period of time, and I think you do need to in this market, London has got a shrinking share of that global treaty business over the years and has lost out quite significantly to other markets. And John Neal says that it can increase, and they're going to target that increase as part of this strap line of 100 billion or whatever. But it doesn't really stack up against what's been happening in the market. One, the types of the way the market has developed over a few years, and I'll come back to that. But also how other markets have developed and the global industry has developed. And if you look at it in the round, Lloyd's, while it is doing quite well at the moment, that's largely the result of the cycle and rates and interest rates. it actually isn't necessarily winning the share it should or growing the pie. You know, it's fairly static, if not going slightly backwards still, and share does matter, I think. There are areas where it's almost, you know, it's kind of coming out of, like US casualty, which we talked about last week. So anything US casualty, it's clearly staying away from. And that, you know, you can see that as a good thing because it's not very profitable at the moment, but a bad thing because it's a big market, an important market. So I think it's, you know, and this point that I made just before, that it's mainly it's a much more lead market. It used to lead out in global cat stuff. It used to be big in US med mal. It doesn't do that really now. It's become much more of a follow market. So your point and Brindle's point about what happens to follow is really quite important. If it's already going down that track, is Lloyd's really moving away from being a specialty market of talented people towards effectively a computerized money shop that happens to be in London? And that's probably exaggerating it, but, you know, if you look at what's happened and, you know, the wholesale move really towards multi-platform groups, you know, great big businesses now owned by Japanese, US, Bermudan insurers, and they don't just use Lloyd's, they use global platforms. They use the best place, right? So Bermuda, for example, on treaty has done fantastically well for a number of reasons, you know, some regulatory, some tax, but also because it focused on reinsurance where London didn't. And it was able to write bigger lines, basically. The problem with London is it's done in bits and pieces, as we know, and that's its cost, as well as its what, you know, people like Brindle might say is a good thing is I just, you know, I can get very specialist even when I'm on follow lines, trading them. But the customers don't like that much because it's costly. It takes quite a lot of time. And it all comes in from different syndicates in bits and pieces, basically. So that becomes difficult for the market. The other thing is the market hasn't really committed to capital over the years. You know, the Decile 10 stuff, much as it was good locally for that time to stem some losses and create what the market calls discipline, it also has made customers, I think, and brokers a little less confident in the market's ability to deliver larger risk lines. You know, so again, we're back to that. And then you've got a lot of businesses that were doing kind of reinsurance, you know, Catlin, the old Catlin, Amlin, you know, came out of it. TMK to some extent has come out of it. There are hardly any really credible leaders on this treaty stuff now, so therefore the talent pool diminishes. You know, so you've got lots and lots of things that you can see really in the market for a very large, you know, which is a very large part of it, where it may shrink further. And I think David Howden again has said this, that we've got to get this up. We've got to build into what businesses really want, which is quite large lines, simplified. John Neal does say this. We've got to be more unified. We've got to be this. But again, you know, John Neal runs Lloyd's, which is a bunch of syndicates still. Highly siloed. You know, the arguments of the Brindles are just, you know, as long as, you know, let us trade and beat each other in the trades. But that's not really, for me, what I see from all the analysis, cutting it for customers. They say, well, I don't want you all. It's fine if you all trade and things, but if it's not efficient and I can't get the risk underwritten, the big ones, then I'll go somewhere that does do it. You know, and the Singapores, Bermudas, the big US, Japanese operators are doing that.
Yeah.
So it's although the numbers look good for Lloyd's, you know, it is, I think, quite a challenging future for it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's there's some fundamentals that you mentioned in there, and that brings us on to kind of our next kind of area of discussion, if you like, which is based on talent. So there was this report, or you've done reports, Ben, with your data, but there was this one that just came out. Insurance industry must change perceptions to overcome talent, the talent crisis. And we've been talking for a long time, many years, about people leaving the industry, the knowledge they're taking with them without passing it on. There's this kind of, you identified that there's kind of a group in the middle where we're very weak. I think it's 35 to 50s, I think, from memory. Is that right?
Yeah. The experienced group. Yeah.
And I think there isn't any real succession planning, at a strategic level, to the analysis that you do to make sure that they're constantly getting a new.
No, you're right. And you could argue it is part and parcel of this bitty market, this fragmented market. Of course, it has the wrap of Lloyd's or the IUA around it, but reality is that it's lots and lots of smaller businesses and some big businesses. But those big businesses are really globally owned. They're not in London, as it were. So if I was a person looking to join the market, am I looking to join AXA XL or Chubb, which are, if I read, their brochures, I suspect they'll say we're a global business. They won't talk about London or anything else like that. They'll just talk about we're a global insurer and you have all the opportunities that you get in a global insurer. So I'm not sure that those, you can talk about, just the market, the insurance market. I think it's those brands that will attract people. And I think John Muir made this point that when he looks at Willis, he said it looks quite good. Or WTW, sorry. But the wider point, which this report makes, is that, there may be a challenge for the whole sector. And the part of the trouble, though, is with all of that is that I think most sectors have probably always said we've got a challenge to get good people. And I think that a few points that are made here I don't think are as important compared to with some of the research that we looked at. I mean, pay and rations is still very, very important, particularly to young people. I think the industry is pretty well paid. And funnily enough, I was with some people last week whose son or daughter, I can't remember, were working in insurance and saying it's unbelievably well paid and they've got a great, interesting job. Now, I don't really need to know about the purpose of the industry or believe in it or anything else. I mean, I'm not sure that I think if you ask and prompt those questions, that's what young people will say they think is important. But when it comes down to it, how important, is that really a game changer in terms of attracting talent? Not sure it is. The boring bit is potentially quite, an issue because you can turn off people who are technology-minded, creative, all that sort of thing. So you can get the wrong sort of talent. And I think that's the key, is where do you get the right sort of talent for the future?
So that's where I was going to come in, because I've been doing, as we build up to London Market Claims in 2 or 3 weeks' time, I've been speaking to the speakers about their themes and topics and that type of thing, and talent comes up a lot. And I'm just gonna play you this clip because I reached out to a friend of the show, see if you can recognize the voice, and anyway, they sent us this.
It's the people. It is still, to me, it's a people business. It's just hopefully going to be a much more utopian enabled people business. But we've got to do something about the lack of people of the next generation. We have got a real claims talent war going on. And I know we've talked about that before, that actually where we're now is that we are cannibalizing each other. Now there's a lot of work going on in the ICC. So the other ICC with Next General and how we're going to launch these initiatives to get more diverse youngsters into the London market claims arena so we never find ourselves in a position again. And also because we know we've got so many new diverse skills we need to do in claims to absorb all of this technology. to absorb all the data analysis and all the opportunities it's going to give us.
So hopefully you heard that.
Nice.
Ben.
Snoop Dogg's always on the money, isn't he? He's got it right. I mean, he's fresh
He's
from his
got it.
appearance at the Olympics, talking
Yes.
claims, insurance. He's right. Yeah,
he's right.
I mean,
So the point is there that actually the current talent is just going round and round and round, and everyone's fishing in the same pool. And so I think from my notes and just talking to people, we need to do a much wider strategic piece that is over 5-10 years or whatever to attract that new talent in. So, and I think to your point that, and just coming back to the article where it says it's boring in inverted commas, I think that's quite an easy fix, because if you think about what claims does now, and the tools and technologies that they have available to them, I think it's a really interesting job. You're trying to uncover themes. You're now meeting clients. You're not just I hate the word, but a back office function. You're there kind of in the shop window. And we've been saying that for years, but genuinely, I think the leaders in this market are putting claims front and center. So I think there's a bit of work that needs to be done where we need to get together, come up with a plan. And I think, as Snoop was saying, the ICC, which when I first heard it, I thought it was the International Space Station, but I didn't think he was talking about that. But it's doing a lot of work. So I think that's going to be a really good initiative, and it's going to be interesting to see what results come through from that.
Yes, I mean, I think there is a need for that reskilling and that big change, and claims is going to be at the heart of it. I completely agree with that. I think it's part of the promise and the benefit of insurance is the claim. Of course, we know that, but it's I'm not sure it does get the support of the exec leadership as much as underwriting does, because we've done some research on that. But I think that is important. I think it needs investment at the end of the day, and that should be a theme that goes forward. I think it has been paid lip service to in lots of ways, and it's unlike sales, underwriting in a way, which is more simple to understand and more there's less detail, I suppose, to it. Then it's an easier sell, and underwriting gets, historically gets that sort of attention. So I think we need to sell claims, and all claims needs to be more integrated into the whole business, so that those skills are there in future. Because I think at the moment they're not, because you're just recycling, the same talent all the time.
Yeah.
And that's not just us. And that would be saying rude if it wasn't being said by the talent, the leadership of claims themselves. I mean, they're saying very expensive to get very average people, and they're only. So do you go outside of market to get those people, or do you retrain them? Either way, you've got to do something quite significant and probably quite expensive to make that shift. Yeah,
definitely. I think one thing, and which will be discussed in a couple of weeks' time at the conference, is Lloyd's bringing claims up to be, I think what they call it is the fifth hurdle, or the in line with, so there'll be kind of minimum standards required for managing agents and to hit, similar to underwriting performance and the other four. This will be the fifth one. So I think that will also, everything seems to be moving to kind of put claims much more at the center of
I know that, and I just find some of these setting rules things, and I like a measure, but often these rules are set around what can be measured rather than what should be measured. I think the event we ran a few weeks ago, the head of claims there for one of the big broking houses was saying it isn't about the processes and things like that. It's about the people. It's about the behaviors and the ability to be part of the client retention, relationship building and selling process around the whole insurance proposition. And I don't think that there are enough people who have got those soft skills in the claims part of the business, or indeed the underwriting part of the business. I think we lack that. We've got a lot of administration people, but not many who can sell the story. As Lloyd's, that's the fifth hurdle for Lloyd's. That's they've fallen over at the first four, and then they've got put another one in. Have they ever got over a hurdle?
It's Olympics themed, isn't it? This episode. Snoop Dogg at the Olympics. We've got hurdles.
I don't think Lloyd would put hurdles up.
No.
They should run without hurdles downhill.
Yeah. I forgot about the bell. Let's move things on. Right. This is something you saw in the FT. UK regulators consider rolling back insurance rules.
Yeah. So again, it's like we've actually thought about this show. So there is a link back to really regulation, making sure that all commercial larger risks are not caught up in things like consumer duty. And it seems like the regulator now with this discussion paper is saying we want to look at this to streamline it, to make it easier when they're in the commercial insurance sector. And actually they are here talking, there's lots of things they're saying here and there's lots of inputs they're going to take. But it looks as if, one, they will make it much less onerous in terms of not treating businesses as one size fits all the same, retail and commercial, on the premise that they're different types of approach, right, in the selling and everything else. But they're also saying that the suggestion in here is that they put much more of the responsibility onto the lead in, say, the London market, to be responsible for the governance of the products themselves through the chain. Now that means, this may not be a good thing because you're then saying, well, hang on, lead already does a lot, doesn't get paid for it.
Yeah.
We talked about the automation of some of it. What if the automated businesses are making more money because they haven't really got any expenses around talent and people? But lead is now going, I think if this sort of thing comes through, lead will have more prominence, but it will need to be paid very differently.
Yeah.
And you will have a great battle really between the leads who do the bespoke risks, the innovation that Brindle talked about, and the automation. And so everywhere you look, that's what's happening. Is it's really a bifurcation between, can you do this, have it regulated on when it's automated and there's not really much human input, or do you kind of in certain areas say, well, we would put much more onus on those individuals and therefore on the talent, and that creates great opportunities for lead markets.
Yeah.
Particularly if they streamline the regulatory side of it. Yeah.
I think it's going to be fascinating because you're right. Those models, those traditional models around, who pays for what, especially if there's more regulatory incumbents on those leads, then they'll want to be paid for that because they, it's more work. You're right. If the followers are making more money, then it's the wrong way around.
Yeah, and they can take clients on more easily and have more leeway to do more things without having to jump through regulatory tick boxes the whole time. It's cool. It's about being proportionate at one level, but
yeah,
these are quite big issues. And if they are going down the road, I suspect they are going down, then you will have another shift towards, the greater importance of the lead in a market where there's a complex risk.
Yeah.
So that's, it's important.
Good. Excellent. Thanks for flagging that. It's taken us almost full circle. Now, this is a down and out story of just a normal person from a a rough background, who's made it all the way to the top of the Lloyd's tree. Or maybe not. Maybe he's a public school boy, educated. Charles Roxburgh.
Charles Roxburgh. Yes, I don't think he was born on the Peckham housing estate, as you say. And so they got the new chair, highly well regarded. Sounds like lots of people. Yeah. I mean, I hadn't heard of him before. He's a ex-Treasury guy, ex-McKinsey. Surprise, surprise. He has been involved. He was involved with Lloyd's in the past at, in terms of the reconstruction renewal, I believe. So he knows the market pretty well. Sounds like a good figurehead. Sounds like a good figurehead for the market, and sounds like he's got the chops to do it. I think that's more. So obviously got a lot of challenges that we've talked about today. And I think it's also interesting because they're talking in this article about that actually very openly, really, about looking for the successor to John Neal. I mean, that's sort of is obvious, but that's now seemingly not very long away. And who are they talking about? Mark Cloutier, the Aspen CEO, Phoenix, Nicholas Lyons, so there are names already being thrown into the pot for the new CEO. So we've got a changing of the guard at a quite important time in the market. Clearly, I mean, to be honest, I think I've said this before. I haven't seen Bruce Carnegie Brown say anything, publicly for quite some time. Certainly I haven't noticed it, whereas he used to talk quite a lot. So I imagine when Roxburgh comes in, he's going to make some pretty clear statements and make some I guess he's going to need a new chief exec quite quickly because he's fresh in role. Neil's been in since 2018. There are issues with Lloyd's, as we know, around blueprint and modernisation, which are not great. So if you look, I think when Roxburgh looks down the checklist, I imagine he's going to think, I wouldn't mind having someone, a fresh person on this. Yeah. That's my guess, my take.
Yeah. No, interesting. We almost got through the show without mentioning Blueprint 2. I was going to, I went along to the online forum because over the summer, as we talked about a little bit last week, there's big changes in the leadership team there with Bob James moving across to Velnetic and things like that. So, you've got that going on in the background. So a change in leadership there. You've got a change in leadership probably coming at Lloyd's, and maybe that, fresh kind of, okay, let's get this done, let's get it over the line.
I mean, there's big challenges. I think that's what we've done quite well today on the show, to show some of those challenges, talent challenges, the structural challenges, competitive challenges from other markets, competitive challenges from within the market because you're kind of moving, it seems, away from syndicates. You've got regulatory change. You've got so much going on that I don't think anybody of Roxburgh's stature can sit there and say, I'm just going to sort of let it all happen. I mean, I know that's what he says in the article. Oh, it's great. The market's in great shape. But they always say that when they come in. I think he is coming into a market with money for sure. But, there are issues at Lloyd's. There are things, going on, as you said, with Velnetic and Blueprint and things that unless those things are addressed, the market will be in some, we'll have some bigger challenges than it's even currently got at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's going into a rate challenged era.
Yes.
The softer market.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, everyone's talking about that as well. Good. Okay. So I forgot to ask you. So before the summer, Ben, you were talking about the Olympics. And I think one of your sons works as a journalist and being posted out there to cover the games.
Yeah.
And so did you manage to swing on the coattails of...
I didn't. I'm sorry to say I didn't, but he did go and he had a good time, and he did get to see a lot of the big events. He next week I'll show you some photo. I think he has a few photos there. I mean, he didn't enjoy the opening ceremony very much because he was pretty wet.
Did anybody?
No, and he said that the rest of it was good, and luckily because he's crime correspondent, he didn't have too much. Even though it started off with a few what were they kind of arson attacks on railway lines.
Oh yeah.
Then after that, it was kind of okay, but no, ridiculously, he asked his girlfriend to go, and
what's all that about?
Yeah, I mean,
the youth of today.
I know. Well, they've got no respect, have they, for their betters? No. But no, he enjoyed it. It was good, and I enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, it was great. It's good. Okay, so what are you doing this weekend, Ben? You're convalescing, are you?
I'm not feeling too good. I got a bit of the old COVID-19, I think.
COVID.
Yeah. It's my birthday though tomorrow.
Oh, happy birthday!
I'm supposed to be going out, but I might have to postpone it for a week.
Yeah.
See whether I can battle on through and recover overnight.
Yeah, you never know. 24 hours, you could be up.
It can make a difference. I said that yesterday though, and I feel worse today than I felt yesterday. So the omens are not good.
Well, I hope you have a great birthday weekend. And
yeah. What about you? What are you up to?
Catch up next week and find out what you're doing. It's actually my daughter's 16th birthday today, so we're also having birthday celebrations.
Nice.
I think she is not going to be celebrating with us. She's going to go to London with her friends.
Yeah, that's what they do. Yeah.
Yeah. So the days of swimming pool parties and soft play are gone.
Yes, they go very quickly, and they don't want anything to do with you, do they? At that point. No, but that's fine. You can have a nice little celebration at home. Feel you've done your job as a parent, and that's it. So it's good, really good.
Excellent. Yeah. Right, thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Claims, is it? Sorry, 3 weeks to London Claims.
3 weeks to London Market
4
Claims.
Weeks.
No, 3. It's rushing.
3.
Yeah,
good.
20th.
I'm looking forward. There's a lot of talk about it. There's a lot of buzz.
Yeah, a lot of people go in, and I can't wait. Actually, it's been a really good week. Just speaking to people. As we talked about last year when we did the kind of wash up, where there was that, we reflected on kind of the younger generation coming through to leadership roles, and excitement around the technology, a willingness to kind of change and transform. I really think it's going to be another very positive event. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am. Good.
Great. Thanks for tuning in. We shall see you next week. Goodbye.
Good weekend. Bye.